Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Blair Hanley Frank from VentureBeat coming at you live from QuickBooks Connect in San Jose, California for our second day of coverage from the show. I am here with Darren Root from Rootworks. How's your show been, man?
You know, it's great. I mean, what's not to like?
It's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful time to be talking about accounting. I know that you're here to talk about the modern accounting firm.
I am. Something we're pretty passionate about. We just released a modern firm guide, and here in about an hour I'm teaching a session on the modern firm, so should be fun.
Cool. So when you say the modern accounting firm, what do you mean? What does that add up to?
You know, I think it's important to understand the context of what the firms looked like before, right? So your perception of an accounting firm is probably a guy with green eye shade looking down, sort of cranking through work, kind of hating life, at least to a degree, which is probably a fairly decent description of most of the profession. A modern firm, from my perspective, is a firm that's actually paying attention to the entire business now, not just production. They're paying attention to this concept of working on their business. We like to think of that as their culture. We think they ought to be paying attention to all the technology revolutions, disruptions that are taking place, and what does that look like in the future? We call that working on their business model or working in their firm. And then lastly, we think they ought to be paying attention to what we call working with customers, which is all their touch points. So on, in, and with, and we relate that to culture, business model, and touch points. So if a firm owner can pay attention to all those things, more complicated than just cranking out a tax return, right? That's what a modern firm looks like to us.
Gotcha. And so let's dive into that culture piece a little bit more, because a focus on culture isn't necessarily something I've associated with accounting in the past, if you'll forgive me. So, what should firms be looking to do?
You know, when you talk to a lot of accounting firms, the one thing that you hear over and over and over is, I can't find good people. I can't hire. I have a staffing problem. And yet, when we look last year, we had more students in accounting programs in the country than ever before. Right? So our accounting programs are full, but firms can't hire. So why is that? And I really think it boils down to culture. So if our biggest problem, potentially our biggest threat, is we don't find people to get the work done, then culture has got to become, a big driver for us inside of our firms. And I believe in accounting firms that culture, leadership, to lead to culture is what we're really missing.
Gotcha. And so, what are some of the best practices that you see that leaders can really execute on to make sure that they're driving the sorts of culture in their firm that people want to be a part of?
Yeah, we know that from some studies we've done that about 95% of firm owners have no vision, they have no mission. They come in the office each day, they put their head down, they do their thing. So this idea that I have a bigger why, that I'm trying to change small businesses' lives or something, doesn't exist in a firm. So when you don't have a bigger why, and I'm going to assume that you're reasonably close to the millennial generation, it's kind of, there's no, why do you want to be a part of something that's not going to have an impact?
Right, exactly. Right? You don't want to go to work in an office. Well, I will say, speaking as a millennial, I'll put on my millennial hat here. I don't want to go to work in an office where there's no greater sense of purpose. Yeah,
I don't either. And I'm on the back end, back end of a boomer, right? But I don't either. And so if a firm could start with just defining their bigger why are they running this company? Why are they doing what they do? What impact on the world do they want to have? And then figure out what their core values are. What is it that we align to? In our company, we align to the concept of being modern. That's so when it comes time to change a technology solution, if one of our core values is being modern, then we all buy into that, right?
Yeah.
Or people value most to us is one of our core values. So, when you think about that, you know how to handle or work with relationships. So I think that's what's missing in firms. Firm owners have never done this before. Therein lies that the modern firm is a much more rounded kind of business that somebody wants to engage in. It's a great profession, and people like Intuit and QuickBooks are making it a lot more fun and a lot more palatable. But we as business owners have got to figure out how to step up our game.
Absolutely. And so, one of the things that I hear about a whole lot, I write about AI all day.
Yeah.
I hear a lot about the potential disruption that AI can bring to the table in the accounting realm. I'm curious to know from you, what are the technologies that you think accountants need to be looking out for, and what should they be doing to help develop themselves professionally so that they're able to take advantage of the next wave of innovation?
Yeah, I think there's three things that I think they're certainly imminent. The first one you're going to say, we talked about that a few years ago, but in the accounting profession, not so much, right? It's mobile. Mm-hmm. Right now, you know, if I work with Chase Bank as an example, I'm going to do all my interactions with Chase Bank or Fidelity Investments through my mobile app. That's how I want to work, right? Accounting firms aren't doing that yet, right? So we're all financial professionals, but there's a group that's shifted, and then the accounting profession's kind of behind. So we've got to catch up to mobile. But then artificial intelligence, I think, is going to be an empowerment tool for the accounting profession. We can get our heads out of the muck and get up and start paying attention to what's going on and helping people. I mean, ultimately what you want from your accountant, at least I believe, is for me to take care of your problems and make you feel more secure in your financial life. That's really what you want. Now, how do we go about doing that? Cranking out a tax return, that's table stakes. I mean, how do we actually make your financial life better? That's what we have to focus on. I think AI helps us there. I think blockchain can help us significantly as well, because I think then we can have much more reliable transactions flowing in, and again, maybe get rid of some of the laborious detail work that we've been associated with.
Gotcha. And so, since you've been associated with that detail work in the past, how can you help accountants for whom that's been their bread and butter for decades? How can you help them get the memo that they need to think outside the box?
I spend 14 hours a day trying to figure that out, Paul. I mean, really, there's, if you look at the profession broadly, we have a huge component of baby boomers that are going to retire. They're kind of, let's say, 5 years out. They're sitting there thinking, do I coast this thing out, or do I actually try to make a change? That one's a rough one.
Yeah.
Then there's a group of not millennials, but somewhere in between there, and they're the ones we're seeing are the most engaged because they realize they can't coast it out. But man, teaching an old dog some new tricks or thinking differently has been challenging. I think that's why RootWorks, our company that helps firms think differently, I think that's why we've been so successful at doing this so far.
For sure. And so one of the other things that you mentioned was working with the customer.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Because that to me sounds kind of like a no-brainer. So I'm sure there's something deeper there.
You know, if I dove in and said, you know, how does your tax return get completed? You may tell me, I shoot my accountant an email and he emails me back and we exchange some documents and he wants me to come by the office and do something. And well, one, we know that in an accounting firms are being attacked by cyber criminals today because they have all of the data that a financial institution has, and they're typically a 5 to 8 person office, so you can only imagine what the infrastructure looks like.
Right.
So they're being attacked by really sophisticated criminals stealing all of that data. We've got to figure out, in this whole working with customers, how to act more like a Chase Bank or a Bank of America or one of the big guys, because we have the same level of data that they have. So that's really the working with component. How do we think about what it is that you need from us as an accounting profession? And then how do we enable that in the way that you want to consume that, which is probably mobile.
Right.
So that's the rethinking that's taking place, which if you go to Starbucks or anywhere else, that's like Amazon, that's all table stakes stuff. That's not in the profession yet.
Gotcha. And so where can people start? Where can they start picking up that technology that they need?
QuickBooks Connect is a great place. I mean, you walk around this hall here. There's a lot of great vendors, a lot of good stuff going on. I think the profession of the old days was I went to my office. I didn't come out of my office, and I just worked. I didn't engage with the rest of the world. Those days are over. You can't function like that. You have to get out. You have to engage with QuickBooks Connect. You have to engage with companies like RootWorks. you've got to engage with people who can help bring you along. Professionals slow to make that shift. You have a great crowd here, but the profession's still slow to make that shift.
Well, cool. I look forward to seeing what the future holds. Thanks so much for coming and talking with us.
Great, thanks for inviting me.
All right, folks, stay tuned. We've got another great interview coming up right after the break.
Am I good?
Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Blair Hamley-Frank here from VentureBeat, and we're coming to you live from QuickBooks Connect in San Jose, California. I'm here with Mariana from the
Hi.
Intuit team. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's a beautiful morning here in San Jose, so I can't complain. So, hey, I wanted to talk to you because I hear that you're the person to talk to about how Intuit has been building its engineering team out for QuickBooks. What have you been up to at the company? And how have you been approaching the challenges that y'all have been tackling over the past several months?
That's true. So, we in the QuickBooks, we have actually a really large and talented engineering team, and we've been focused on a bunch of topics, but in particular, data, AI, ML has been something we really wanted to bring to our customers. Mm-hmm. And as you know, it's not just an Intuit thing. It's a whole movement in the industry and phenomena. It's really a big platform, and we are really aware of what it can do for our customers. And luckily, we also have a lot of unique data about our customers, because our customers really use us to their day-to-day, how they do their work. We have a lot of data in how they collaborate with us, how they use their money, what are some of their struggles, etc. I do want to pause for a second and just tell you that we are being very, very private with our customer data, and we only use it in very strict ways to make sure that we don't look or expose anything that we shouldn't. So that's kind of what I want to assure you and everybody. But the data is kind of interesting, because like once you have data, you really can start applying all sorts of AI and machine learning algorithms to do interesting things, all the way from just use it in the product to kind of get you the next step like more rapidly and make it easy for you to do your work, to do a lot more sophisticated things. So for example, start correlating what you want to do with your financials and how to categorize data, but here's like a couple of more interesting use cases. We talked yesterday on stage about QB Capital, which is our financing. We announced a new capability, and there's no way we could have done it without some AI and ML action. And nice thing about that is we were actually able to help businesses that normally would get rejected. And I don't know if you watched the video yesterday, but it was, it was. I know many people were tearing because it was so emotional to see people that really want to start a business, and we're enabling it with the ability to really know how their data is being used. So that will be one example, and there's like obviously many more.
Gotcha. Well, and so one of the things I'd be interested in getting a sense for is, one of the things that I always hear about talking to tech companies down here is how hard it is to find the right talent to implement some of these advanced features like the ones that you're building. How are you drawing the top engineers into it to work on this problem when, of course, you've got people like Google and Facebook and Microsoft and all of the other giants going after them as well?
That's right. So, and like relatively, especially with speaking on things like data and ML, some of these are emerging fields, so talent is particularly sparse. So you're absolutely right. But I think one of the unique things about what we do is not only that we have a variety of interesting technologies, and we work on really interesting problem sets for engineers, just to kind of really be able to work on challenging engineering work. But I think one of the unique things about what we do is that we really impact the lives of small businesses, self-employed. Really kind of, you have this feeling of very mission-based. What you do is really meaningful and important, and helping people that are real, and kind of have this feeling of like, and that I think was a really helpful drive for us. And we have this phenomena at Intuit called boomerang. So often people that leave they come back either because they miss the culture or they miss this feeling of purpose that you really get from working on real world problems.
For sure. Well, and so speaking of that culture piece, like as an engineering leader, how do you tackle building a culture at a company like this, and what are you focused on in that regard?
You really want to first have access to the latest and greatest technology. I mean, because aside from the mission base and everything we talked about, engineers want to work on really hard problems. So you really want to have a place where you can work on the latest and greatest technologies, and the problems that you solve are tied to that, and you have the kind of culture where there is innovation that can come from the engineers, or space for them to innovate, try new things, and really bring it to customer fast. We also, like most of our product is SaaS, and this kind of rapid way to innovate, get to engineers, modern cloud, everything. So having a place where you quickly can hack on your machine and get it to the hands of developers is what developers really are after, and we have it.
Well, that's always a good position to be in. For the companies that are out here in the audience at QuickBooks Connect, if they're looking to engage with engineers and maybe they have a technical project that they need to work on, or they have some QuickBooks integration that they really want, what are the sorts of things about the problem of accounting that really fascinate engineers? What is it that that can help provide that drive for, hey, this is a really challenging problem and I want to work on it?
Right. So just to even take aside like accounting for a second, every time you have many users, and we have a vast platform of many users, right? You deal with problems of scalability, keeping a service up and running, all this interesting problems right there. But you kind of layer on top of that some of what you mentioned with accounting, et cetera. You deal with things with a rich area of, anything that has to do with financials have another layer, if you want, of complexity. So problems we deal with around security and keeping the data secure, keeping the data private are, again, interesting. And then one of the interesting things is, how do you make accounting really compelling and easy for users? So that's another challenge that is really interesting. How do you make it modern? How do you make it modern on mobile platforms and web platforms, and how you make it accessible and easy? You saw yesterday the demo, I'm sure you saw it.
Yeah.
On conversational UI,
right.
And how you can suddenly make something like accounting at your fingertips available to you. You can engage with the machine and kind of make it there, make it easy. So that's a kind of challenge. We have a platform with, again, large number of developers and companies integrating with us. So a whole area of like APIs, integration, developer, so building SDKs, lots of interesting. So yes, it's accounting at the core, but as you can see, all sorts of challenges that go related to accounting and around it that are fascinating.
Gotcha. All right, well, thank you so much for the time. It was really great to talk with you.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
All right, folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back with another great interview after the break.
What's a standby?
Means. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Blair Hanley-Frank from VentureBeat, and we're here coming to you live from QuickBooks Connect in San Jose, California. I'm joined by Sanjeev from Bill.com. How's it going?
Going great, Glenn.
So, hey, one of the things that I'd love to talk to you about, I was at a hackathon this weekend hosted by Intuit, and one of the things that always came up from a lot of the people presenting was cash flow as a huge issue for small businesses. For those of us who aren't small business owners and who may not necessarily be well versed in that ecosystem, like why is that such a big issue?
Well, if you're a small business, you know, often you've got this slight timing disconnect between when your customers pay you and when you need to pay your vendors. You know, for a very simple example, I buy a widget from my vendor, I put it into something and I sell it to my customer. Well, my vendor wants to get paid before my customer pays me. So cash flow and then making sure that payment timing is managed well ends up being pretty important so that bank account doesn't go to zero.
That's, yeah, and I hear that when the bank accounts go to zero, that's pretty bad.
They don't like it, yeah. Nobody likes that.
And so, what has been changing over the past, 5 to 10 years in the payment space around, getting people paid and making sure they're getting paid on time?
Well, what's interesting is that there actually are change is pretty slow with small businesses. It's surprising. There's been a ton of innovation for consumers. Mm-hmm. And I would say there's been a reasonable amount of innovation for small businesses getting paid. You have, Intuit has built in some functionality into QuickBooks. You have PayPal, you have Square, right, on that getting paid side. What's interesting is that on the payments side, it's very slow to change. 80% of those small business payments are still paid by check today.
Wow.
Mailed check. So that's just an interesting dichotomy. And again, for consumers, you've got Venmo, you've got, everything has moved on, but small businesses are a little slow in that area.
And so what is it that's holding people back? Why haven't we seen the Venmo for small business?
Well, Bill.com aspires to be that, and we think that the real issue is that what small businesses have a set of processes that they still need to make work. So for example, I don't really want that payment to go out unless it syncs with my accounting software. I don't want that payment to go out unless I've had a chance to review the bill. I want to store the bill. I want to send the remittance information. There are a bunch of things that consumers don't have to do. So in order to get small businesses to shift, you have to completely automate that, make it super, super simple. And that's what we're endeavoring to do through partnerships with folks like Intuit.
Gotcha. And so what does that partnership look like, and what does that mean for your end users?
Well, what we've done with Intuit is a really tight partnership in which we are actually built into QuickBooks Online. So it literally looks like you're in QuickBooks. You go to the QuickBooks dashboard, it tells you what bills you have to pay, and that's powered by Bill.com. The experience for the small business owner is really nice. You get a bill, you can take a picture of it, or it can be emailed directly into QuickBooks. You open up QuickBooks, there's a little inbox with all your bills to pay. You click on each one. We actually enter the data for you in QuickBooks, but you have to, correct it, make sure everything's good. And then when you're ready to pay the bills, you just go in there, click, 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 and pay. No printing checks, stuffing envelopes. Your vendor can receive it as a check or an electronic payment. It just makes life a lot simpler, and then of course we've stored all that for record keeping for you and reference.
Gotcha. So one of the things I'd be curious to hear about is you've got a new partnership with Jpmorgan. What's the partnership and what's going on there?
Yeah, Jpmorgan Chase wants to offer their small businesses best-in-class solutions for paying and getting paid. And they made a decision that they didn't want to try and build it themselves, because building it yourself and making it really easy is hard. So then they looked out there and they said, okay, who do we think can best do this in partnership with us? And we're honored that they selected us. So what's going to happen next year is that Chase is going to have a branded, Chase branded solution, again, maybe powered by Bill.com, that will help small businesses automate the get paid process and the pay process, very similar to what I just described with Intuit. The difference is that it'll be built into Chase, and it will synchronize with accounting software. So whether you're using QuickBooks or Xero or whichever, it'll just synchronize with that in the background two-way, sort of the same way your cell phone synchronizes with your desktop calendar.
Gotcha. And it sounds to me like you're trying to get to an experience that's closer to what consumers have right now. You know, I can go online, pay my Chase credit card bill, you know, through that same portal and send money out. It's the same idea?
We really believe that small businesses have been left behind a little bit by technology because there's been so much investment on the consumer side, you know, the Venmos, the online bill pay, and with small businesses, sometimes what banks do and others do is they just say, oh, well, I've got this consumer solution. Can you, small business, make it work for you? Right? And the small business is like, well, I kind of have to store an image of the bill. I kind of have to send out remittance information. You know, one of the things we do is whenever we send a payment, whether it's via check or electronic, we put a picture of the bill being paid on the stub. So that the recipient knows how to apply the check in their system. Again, consumers don't necessarily need that, but for small businesses, it's important. So we've just done all the enhancements like that. You know, the seamless sync with accounting software. You know, if you told a consumer, hey, I've got this great calendar program, but you just have to go and quickly update it on your computer, and then when you've done that, quickly update it on your mobile phone, the consumer would be like, what? You know, I don't understand. But that's what's expected of small businesses, unless they have a program that seamlessly syncs both. So it's those types of things. We just take that same idea, but we adapt it to small business. Chase saw that and they said, oh, that's what we need.
Right. And so why do you think that small businesses have been left behind in this way? Because it seems to me like, you know, obviously I might be a bit surrounded by evidence of why it's so important, but this seems like a massive market opportunity. What's taken so long?
We think it's a massive market opportunity. Well, you know, one of the things that's interesting, again, if you sort of look at the consumer side, the people who have done the most of this are banks, right? And in banks, there's a very interesting organizational construct where you've got one organization that serves big business and another organization in the bank that serves consumers. And often banks don't have a third one that serves small business. So what they do is they either say to the consumer organization, all right, we'll put the small businesses under you, or the commercial organization, they'll say we put the small business under you. And so what happens is the small business either gets a consumer solution that doesn't work for reasons I've talked about, or they get a commercial solution which may have all the features, but guess what? It's not that easy to use.
Right. Well, and not only that, but if they're part of the commercial piece of the bank, they're also competing for time against much larger entities, I would imagine.
You got it. And that affects pricing, it affects service, it affects everything. And so small businesses, again, are sort of in that awkward position in the middle. And I think banks are starting to realize it. I mean, we're getting approached more and more, and we're thrilled that, you know, Intuit, I mean, think about it, the leading accounting software didn't really have electronic payments like this built in until recently. And, you know, you might, and so when you ask, why did it take so long? Well, that's one of the reasons.
So what's next for Build.com? What do you have next on your docket? What can we expect from you?
We continue to invest in ease of use. So one of the things we've heard from our customers is, you know, they like the way we do domestic payments, but they also want to be able to start paying people overseas. You know, they buy something from China or they buy something from Europe, and we're developing now a one-click way to make those payments overseas, again, that sort of syncs with QuickBooks. We're very excited about that. And you know, there's constant ease of use investment that we're doing to make the product easy and easier. One thing we're really proud of is we've started to build a network of small businesses that accept electronic payments. So what that means is if you want to pay a bill and you want to pay it electronically, instead of typing in an account and routing number, we'll search your vendors and we'll say, hey, some of these we already have electronic payment information for. Would you like to just click a button and pay them? Well, the vendor loves it because they're getting more electronic instead of check.
Right.
And the sender loves it because they don't have to go through all the hassle of typing in account and routing numbers. They just click a button and pay. And we're building out that network. That's actually one of the reasons that Chase wanted to work with us, is they said, wow, that's great. So, you know, all our customers can now have more people to pay electronically.
Gotcha. All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been great to talk with you.
Likewise, Blair, thanks.
All right, folks, stay tuned. We've got another great interview coming up right after the break. Hello. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Blair Henley Frank from VentureBeat. We're coming at you live from QuickBooks Connect in San Jose, California. I'm here with Hannah from Wash It Later. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How's your show been?
It's been great. The QuickBooks has completely taken care of us. We've been enjoying the conference, learning a lot, networking, meeting people. Feel really blessed.
Awesome. So I hear you've got a new company.
We do.
Called Wash It Later. What's it all about?
So we created the only soaking solution for babies' clothes on the go. They're liquid type bags that already have all natural soaking solution inside the bag already. So you can add clothes, add the dirty clothes, add water, seal it up, and kind of keep on keeping on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so what does that end up meaning for parents? What does that let them do?
Well, I'm a mom of two, so I run into this problem all the time. We're out and about, and one of the kids has a blowout or a spill or a stain, and you bring the diapers and the wipes and the change of outfit, but then you're still left with this mess. And what I was, when I bought this product, I was kind of like, well, what do I do with this mess? I crumple it up, throw it back in my diaper bag, or throw it away most times if the mess is, if it's unsalvageable, you know, because I had no way to get it home. So this gives you the option to kind of start pre-treating those stains, start soaking those clothes before you get home. So it alleviates all the extra scrubbing, the harsh chemicals you would have to use to kind of get these stains out in order to save those clothes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what have you learned from the whole process of getting a new business off the ground?
Oh, I've learned a lot. I don't really have a business background, so it's kind of been trial by error and learn as I go. And I guess I've learned that, you know, business is hard and there's a lot of problems, but everything is figure outable. I mean, with all of the tools that we have available, to research it, to figure out how to do manufacturing, to do the research on what kind of chemicals are all natural and hypoallergenic, to figure out, to ask and get feedback from moms and figure out what they need and if they like this idea. It's been a fun learning journey, and I think that we have something really valuable. So. Yeah,
for sure. And so as part of your work, you just wrapped up a Kickstarter campaign.
We did, yes.
What was that experience like for you?
The Kickstarter campaign was difficult. It was, so we decided to go with Kickstarter. My husband and my sister-in-law are a part of our team, and my husband said, well, let's put it on Kickstarter. It'll be a great way to kind of validate the product, see if there's a need for it, get that capital in the form of like pre-orders and like small investments, and then use that capital to run our first production of these things, because one of those lessons I learned in business is you can't get 100, you can get 100,000. And so we needed to know that 100,000 people wanted these, or that we could sell 100,000 of them, or, you know, those are goals, but so we wanted to use those funds, if we could fund, to run our first production run and start selling.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And so when it comes to crowdfunding, what would you recommend to other people who are thinking about starting that small business journey with a crowdfunding project?
When it comes to crowdfunding, I think I would recommend that you do your research, that you kind of maybe even start pre-building an audience. We kind of just jumped in, and what I learned about my audience was I had to do a lot of education on what Kickstarter was, as well as educating on what my product was. It's a new product, nobody's heard of it. So I have to tell people all the time, and then have to tell them, well, we're on Kickstarter, what is Kickstarter? And so there's kind of a lot of education that you need to project out there. And I guess that's what I would kind of prepare somebody for.
Gotcha. And what did you find is the best means of doing that education and that outreach?
A big tool for us was using our friends and family, using our inner circle, and reaching out to other like-minded, for me, moms. So doing the personal ask, kind of educating one single person who maybe has a network of their own, blogger or an Insta influencer, who would be willing to then kind of share that information and share that education and tell people where to find us. So that kind of was a little bit helpful for us, but the most helpful part was QuickBooks, who found us. So, and that was mostly a miracle.
And so what happened there? Tell me about that.
So right at the very end of our campaign, we actually had sent out an email kind of like conceding. We had not reached our funding goal, and we were like 8 hours to go on the campaign. We did a 45-day campaign. And we had sent out this email to our backers that said, you know, we're probably not funding, you know, we still have a ways to go here, but we're not giving up. And we're going to offer you, because you guys were the first people to back us, we're going to offer you a discount on the products, and we're still going to put in our production run because we had gotten so much feedback. We just hadn't reached our goal monetarily. And my husband was like, oh, I'll just kind of see, you know, you never know. He said those words, you never know. And he clicks on the computer and he's like, it says, congratulations, you're fully funded. And I'm like, okay, that's the funny joke, you know, funny joke. And he said, no, I don't know what's going on. This kid, and then sure enough, we had a little message that kind of like in 2 sentences was like, oh, hey, this is QuickBooks. We would like to give you this gift and as a part of this program, and you'll get an email that explains more. And in all honesty, we thought it was complete fraud. And so we were kind of like researching all these names and who everybody was. And then I got an email on my phone, and it explained this program where they're reaching out and supporting small businesses. They want to personalize this connection with small businesses because that's who they elevate as a part of their mantra as a business. And they chose us. They believed in our product. They sponsored and funded the rest of our Kickstarter, as well as gave us a bunch of other gifts and swag and computer and some marketing dollars, and brought us here to kind of get energized and motivated and learn as much as we could.
Dang, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? What's next on the docket now that you've cleared this funding hurdle?
Next on the docket, well, so our first production run has already been done. In fact, it got done 2 nights ago, and we had them send a box to the hotel because we were so excited. So in our hotel room, we have our first run of products, and we were crossing our fingers that they turned out right, and they're perfect. So we're really excited. We actually had been giving out a couple samples while we were here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're like, are you a parent? You know, give us some feedback. And so we have our first production run. We are going to fulfill all of our Kickstarter orders, and we have some good stuff coming for January and February. A lot of our connections that we made as far as blogs and influencers and kind of community that we're building really want samples to like do a review on the product, to make their own content with it, to do unboxings. So now we're going to get those samples out and hopefully kind of just take off from there, because the mom community really likes if the product works and if it fits that need and it solves that problem, which we do, then we talk about it, we share it, we encourage each other with it. So I think that could be big for us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much for stopping by.
Thank you.
All right, folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back with another great interview. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Blair Hanley Frank with VentureBeat, and we're coming at you live from QuickBooks Connect here in San Jose, California. I'm joined by an amazing panel of 3 people. We've got Rao, Ravi, and David talking about the App Showdown. David, you were the MC here. What is the App Showdown and what happened?
So the App Showdown, yes, is an event that takes place at QuickBooks Connect. It was the 2nd year in a row we've done it, but it's really a program that runs all year. So apps that build their app and publish on apps.com are eligible for the contest, and we work with those apps along the way. So they need to help them get reviews on apps.com. We help them interact with small businesses and accountants on Twitter. So we kind of build the apps, and then it leads into a voting phase. And so accountants vote for their favorite apps. Then we bring the top 10 finalists here to the Showdown event, and where we'll have a panel of judges, and the top 10 finalists get to pitch. And then the winner is announced the next morning, which was ShopFox this year.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
And so what do you all work on?
So basically, our app is called ShopFox, and we provide software for custom manufacturers. So people, especially in the graphics industry, like signage, screen printing, embroidery, engraving, if you see all your signage around, these are the guys who make these signs for events and so forth. And we provide software for those companies. It's like an end-to-end solution for them to collaborate with their customer, their sales rep, their designer, and the vendors to produce this thing without a mistake and on time. That's the fundamental core of the app.
Gotcha. Okay. So David, just to get a little bit more background on the contest, excuse me, how do you pick the right apps? What is it that makes a winning app?
What makes a winning app? I think a winning app fundamentally solves a customer's problem. Like, there's a lot of apps that are out there and they don't solve a problem. So fundamentally, they solve a problem. The second thing I think that makes a winning app is it actually helps a small business owner make more money. There's actually a true business impact on the business owner. And the third thing is the communication, I think. Can you communicate what your app does? A lot of apps can't really do that, and so winning apps are really good at communicating. Here's the problem we solve. That makes their marketing easier, and they really get people excited. Accountants know they're getting a benefit from using that app and putting their clients on that. But the winning apps really is they solve a problem. Gotcha.
And so why is this so important to Intuit? Why are you doing this?
So the reason it's important to Intuit has QuickBooks Connect. It's a celebration of small business. So we have self-employed gig workers here. We have small businesses here, accountants, we have developers, but we really look at all of them as small businesses. Rao is a small business owner, and we want to help empower small business success all around the world. And so the Showdown really helps developers like Rao grow his business. Fundamentally, it's just about us helping developers who are small business owners grow.
Gotcha. And so, Rao and Ravi, it sounds like you've got a really interesting problem here, but what inspired you to get started?
It's a funny story. I mean, in 2008, we both were burnt out in Silicon Valley, so we went to India to make a Bollywood movie. So we made the movie, then our wife said, okay, now you spent the money and time, now we need to make some money. So we bought this sign franchise company, but when we went for the training, we saw a fundamental problem. Because it was in 2009, they were still sending the proofs by fax and email. And we come from Silicon Valley, everything should be done on the web.
Right.
So Ravi and I said, let's put together an application on the web and see where it goes, right? And we put that one together, and we gave it to 3 or 4 early adopters. They loved it, and they said after a month, they cannot live without it. Now we knew, okay, now we have something. So from that point on, it just kept on adding and adding and adding. We used to serve only sign businesses. Then the other industries, peripheral industries like screen printers and all, said, why can't we use your application? So that's when we created ShopFox for all the 4 graphics industry. So that's where it started, and we have a lot of customers who say they got their life back because of that. Because as a small business, you're always tied to your shop. Now, because it's on the web, you can watch it from anywhere. So on a Sunday afternoon, you don't have to go to your shop. Mm-hmm. You can do it from your living room with a beer.
Ah, yeah.
So,
well, that's far better.
That's what we saw, and I think they love it.
Yeah, for sure. And so, one of the things that I keep noticing, David, is that this is listed as the $100,000 App Showdown.
Yes.
It sounds like there's some sort of prize attached. What did these wonderful people win?
They did win $100,000 cash, a huge check.
Yes.
I think there was pictures of it. It has to be everywhere. Hopefully VentureBeat has a picture somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure we do.
So yes, they get a check. I don't know what you guys were going to plan on doing with it.
We haven't got the check yet.
You haven't got the check yet.
As it turns out, it's really hard to cash those big person-sized checks.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see you guys carry it like through airport security, take photos of it, send you do in the airplane. Because you don't get to carry a check for $100,000 through an airport very often. I'd love to see
We
that.
were walking around yesterday and it was great. Like everybody was like excited about it.
So what do you have planned with the money?
Okay, so actually this winning came at a great time. We were just about to grow really fast, and I think this 100K will help us in the sales and marketing of our 2018 budgets and plans. But also, as I promised on the stage, we're going to take all our staff in US to Las Vegas.
It's a wonderful city.
Yes, it's a great city, no pretension. So we all go there, have fun for a weekend or so, and then we'll get back to work. So we got to
hopefully double the money.
Yeah, hopefully double the money. I'm not taking all 100K, maybe 20K. But so it's an awesome award for us, both financially and, I mean, on QuickBooks, 99% of small businesses use QuickBooks. I mean, our customers, 99% use QuickBooks. So it's a great way to boost our growth in future in 2018 and 19, and then have some fun doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And so what do you see as the future for the product? Where do you go from here?
Yeah, so ShopBox is built for custom manufacturing. So any custom shop can use it. We have been concentrating these 4 industries because that's our background. But now in 2018 and 19, we're going to go after other industries, right? There is a huge gap between a $5 million shop trying to buy a software. They have to go to this big softwares which cost $250,000 or $1 million. There is nobody who supports in between, and I think we can really fill that gap and really grow pretty fast. It's providing software at a reasonable value for the $5 to $50 million companies. We already do for the smaller ones, but we want to do for this one. So that's where our next 2 to 3 years growth is, and I think ShopBox will be pretty good at that.
Gotcha. And so from a product design standpoint, what is the difference between some of these larger manufacturing powerhouses and the companies that you're selling to?
Yeah, so from day one of the things we always did is we didn't want to build anything that the customers don't want. So our philosophy from day one, because of also the resources we have, we only have 6 to 8 developers. So we always build an MVP, minimum viable product, and then we give it to the customers. Right? And now they keep on giving us feedback, right? And that's when we build the extra bells and whistles, so that we don't have any extra fat in our software. It is what the customers want. So that's very fundamentally, that's one of the difference. And also cloud has basically reduced this overhead quite a bit, right? Today, we could run the software company, which I could not run 20 years ago. Right? We needed a lot of capital.
Yeah.
So cloud has done a great job, and everybody is coming onto cloud. So that's where the fundamental difference, why we could support it and not the big ones, because they have too much overhead. They're built in all these bloated systems and so on. We build only the ones they want.
Awesome.
And also one of our goals is to be able to implement our software within like 15 days of the time that they buy it. Whereas these big ERPs that usually you have to buy, I mean, it takes a year for them to get into production essentially, right? So we want to reduce that because no small business will wait a year. I mean, spend money with consultants and stuff like that, right? So our aim is to make it like almost, without any, they don't need any training, so they can just start using it. So that's our aim.
Gotcha. All right. Well, cool. Thank you all so much for stopping by. This has been a ton of fun. I really appreciate the time.
Great, thanks for the opportunity and thanks for this.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Intuit and QuickBooks.
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back with another great interview after the break.
All right.
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Blair Hanley Frank from VentureBeat. I'm coming at you live from QuickBooks Connect in San Jose, California. I'm here with Patty from Intuit. How's your show been?
It's been terrific. It's been great.
That's great to hear. So what do you work on at Intuit? What's your focus?
Me personally, I run our marketing and our analytics in the professional tax business.
Gotcha. Well, that's got to be some interesting stuff, especially with tax season coming up later this year.
It is. Yes.
So one of the things that I'm really curious about is talking about how AI makes its way into those products that you're working on. What's been your focus in that regard over the past little while?
Yeah. So AI has transformed the way we think about technology across Intuit, not just in the professional tax business. Mm-hmm. We really are concentrating on machine learning, which is an application of AI, and it's all about how do we take all of our data and make it smarter and enable us to come up with solutions for customers that are better and smarter, and take the work and the drudgery out of this process and out of doing taxes. As well as in other of our products, like our QuickBooks products.
Gotcha. And so that's where I end up living professionally for most of my day is talking with AI companies and writing about machine learning. But for those folks who don't have to eat, sleep, and breathe it, which I imagine is most of the population.
That's right.
At least I hope other people have a life besides me. What's your kind of rundown on how we should think about the way machine learning works? People bandy about the term AI a whole lot. What does that actually mean?
The machine and machine learning is really about the capacity that the machine has to learn versus a human. So a human is much more limited in what we can learn and take in and process, whereas the machine can take in almost infinite amounts of data, and it can learn itself and be smarter about the output and be smarter about how it uses all the data.
Gotcha. And so that's something, that data piece is something we hear about a lot when machine learning comes up. Why is it so important?
Well, can I give you an example? Maybe it'll
help
absolutely. To tackle a couple of examples. One is today in the professional tax business, about 2/3 of the time in an accountant's life is spent just trying to track down the tax documents that they need to fill out the tax forms. So could you please send me this or that? You haven't sent it to me. You've sent me 8 of the 10 things I need. Where's the other 2? Literally 2/3 of their time is spent tracking that stuff down. Most of that information is available digitally. So if we could just get that information digitally and be able to input it with machine learning into the tax form, know where it goes, know how to do the calculations, that would take out all of that back and forth and all of that drudgery. And that's one example. Our EVP of the QuickBooks business announced on stage yesterday the new QuickBooks Assistant. It also uses machine learning. As people ask questions within QuickBooks, it takes all of the data and their specific question and is able to bring back specific information about their business based on their question.
Gotcha. Okay. And so how do you end up going from a problem that is help find me the data for this tax form to actually pulling out that unstructured data and applying it in an application perspective? How do you get there?
Yeah, our engineers, we've just increased the amount of focus that we have on these technologies and what applications there might be. And so we're reallocating a significant amount of our dollars to be able to hire people with that kind of expertise, to be able to just look at what are the problems that we're tackling and how might we use AI and machine learning to make the answer better. Our customer benefits that we focus on in this business are about no work, they're about more money or keeping money in people's pocket and having complete confidence. And so we're constantly, from a product management and a product development and an XD perspective, we're constantly looking at how might machine learning enable us to take all of this data that we have across all of these products and make our products smarter.
Gotcha. And I know that when we're talking about some of the techniques that are really underpinning the AI that people have been hyping up so much, not necessarily new. This is some stuff that has been laid out in papers decades and decades and decades ago. Where did Intuit's journey in the AI space start?
Yeah, we've used AI over the years. We've probably been using it for 10 years. Last year we took a step back in our strategy. We typically do strategy planning on a 3-year basis. Last year our senior executives took a step back and looked at what are the trends over the next 10 years, and we really did a lot of work to understand what kind of impact AI and machine learning could have on our business. And we're always trying to reinvent ourselves, and so it's just something that we're redoubling down on because of the power that it has and because of what we're trying to deliver to our customers.
Gotcha. Okay, and so how has all of that work changed the way that Intuit works?
Yeah, well, it gives us more ability. Again, we have so much data. So think about all the data that's in QuickBooks. I mean, it's people's business data every day and every transaction. Think about all the information that we have in TurboTax and in our professional tax business. We do about 30 million returns in TurboTax. We do about 30 million returns in the professional tax business. And we have millions and millions of small business customers. And it really enables us to take all that data and be able to do something with it and make the product smarter and make us, again, better able to deliver on our key customer benefits that customers have told us are most important in choosing these kind of products.
Gotcha. And have you had to change your product development workflow when it comes to building with these sorts of new capabilities?
One of the things we're really focused on is how can we go faster? How can we increase our cycle time? And these technologies, again, allow us to do that. We have a number of new experiments that we're doing with this technology, and with the focus on speed, we can deliver it to customers faster. Our primary process at Intuit is called CDI and D for D. It's customer-driven innovation and design for delight, and that's been the basis of our company for 34 years, and that continues to be true. We've just taken our entire 8,000 people in our company through a renewed training in our State of the Company tour this year, and so that hasn't changed, and we're just re-emphasizing the importance of that, but having AI and machine learning in our toolbox allows us to be better as we make our products smarter.
Gotcha. And so you mentioned that experimentation piece as something that is something that you're working on a whole lot. What is that like compared to the sort of traditional software development, like, hey, we have a list of priorities, let's march through and pull off this one product? How did those approaches differ?
Well, it allows us, one thing is it allows us to make improvements along the way, and we add to our products and improve our products weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, as opposed to a more of a boil the ocean approach, right? So it's got to be all perfect on this date, and then we don't improve it again for some long period of time. But an experiment also allows us to get something out there with a smaller number of customers, get the customer's reaction, and then improve it and make it better. And we do that and not customer research or a lot of market research. What we've learned is customers' behavior is much better to build our products on based on what they say. So a focus group, for example, somebody goes into a focus group, you ask them questions, they give you answers, but then when you actually go watch what they do and see how they behave, what we've learned is they behave very differently than what they say. Not purposefully or with some negative intent, it's just behavior is a much more reliable predictor of how they're going to behave, right? So
I mean,
that can make more sense. And so
it's the old dentist office problem of, yes, of course, I brush my teeth twice a night and I floss every evening.
I
and
exercise 3 times a week.
Right,
and
exactly.
I only have one drink once a month. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Always perfect. And turns out humans are complicated.
That's right.
Makes a whole lot of sense.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate the time.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, stay tuned. We're going to have a quick break, and then we'll be back with you in about 15 minutes with another great interview. Talk to you soon.
Am I looking at you, or are we looking at the camera?
Look at me.
Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Blair Hanley Frank from VentureBeat. We're coming to you live from QuickBooks Connect in San Jose, California. I'm joined by Randy here. How's your show been, man?
It's been great. Having a great time. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, thank you for coming. It's great to have you. So, what is it that you're working on?
So, my company is called Bombas. It's a sock company, and we started 4 years ago. But we learned 7 years ago that socks are the most requested clothing item at homeless shelters. So it's a fact that kind of blew us away, me and my partner, and we started to think, what can we do to help solve this problem? And then we started to think about the sock business, and we borrowed a great business model, the one-for-one model, and we said if we can make a really great pair of socks, for every pair we sell, we'll donate a pair, and then we're now up to 5 million pairs donated in the last 4 years.
Wow.
So we're helping to solve a problem. We make an incredible pair of socks, the most comfortable socks in the history of feet, as we like to say, and that's Bombas.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, how did you end up trying to address the sock market? I mean, there are no shortage of sock makers out there.
That's true. But when we started, we looked around at, there were a lot of men's dress sock makers that were coming up. There was a trend around colorful socks, but athletic socks looked the same as they always had. Cardboard feeling, black and white tube socks, pretty generic. We were wearing basic Nike socks to work, and I think a lot of guys who were in a casual environment, and we said there had to be something better. And we saw there were a lot of features that were being marketed towards runners or high performance athletes that weren't available in the market for everyday socks. So we brought a lot of those really high-end features into one sock, started to work on the R&D, took 2 years to make what we consider the best socks in the market. And then we launched that, and our theory was, if we make a great pair of socks, we'll sell a lot, and if we sell a lot, we can donate a lot, and if we donate a lot, we'll help solve this problem that we set out to help solve.
Gotcha. And so, how do you, once you have that mission of, that one-for-one model, how do you actually go and make sure that the economics of that end up working? How do you address that from a business standpoint?
Yeah, I think since we addressed it from the beginning, we built all of our unit economics and the financials of the business around the idea that we were doing this. So it was baked in from the start. We understood what our margins were from the beginning and where they could go and how they could even improve over time. And even in the beginning, we saw the margins were good enough to do this. So you can't remove that from our business, and it wouldn't be our business anymore. It's so part of who we are. It's the reason we exist as a business. So we just knew we had to make it work, and we figured out a way, and it really does work. There is enough margin to be able to donate a pair and sell a pair, and have it at a reasonable price.
Yeah. And so how do you actually go and get something like a sock company off the ground in the 2010s?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Nobody grows up dreaming of being in the sock business, right? It's not, every kid's dream. But when we had this idea, we just, I think our philosophy with everything is ask people who are smarter than we are to help us with it. And we happened to know someone who had spent his career in the sock business for 40 years, and he helped introduce us to some of the best factories in the world. And we just started. We had the time, because we were working other jobs when we first started it, to do the R&D. And we came up with 175 different versions of this sock before we landed on the one that we liked. So we used the resources of this factory who helped us build our prototype and our product, and we had the time to do it. And when we were ready, we were like, all right, we think we have something great. Now let's see if other people besides our parents and our friends and the people who we stalk at our gyms to ask for feedback like these socks.
Mm-hmm. And so, what are the sorts of features that people are getting out of a Bombas sock that they wouldn't necessarily get anywhere else? What makes them so special?
I think it starts with the material. We use really high quality cotton, and when you use high quality cotton, the difference between that and cheap cotton is a world of difference in terms of temperature regulation, moisture wicking. It all starts there. But then, the annoying seam across the toe on your socks. Mm-hmm. So we use a technique where we hand link the toe seam and it feels really smooth. And then we use a different stitch technique in the heel, and we add a little padding to the footbed, and we work on the tension level for our calf socks so they stay up and they don't slide down, but they're not too tight. So all of these features, there's about 7 material changes that we made to the look, feel, and design of the athletic sock that make them worlds better than anything else you can find on the market.
Gotcha.
It's a lot. It's a lot of sock sock talk, and if you want to talk sock tech, we can do that all day. But the bottom line is the features are all great, and but you know, when you put it on, you just know that you're wearing something better. You may not know why, or you may not know that there's a Y stitch heel or a comfort footbed or seamless toe, but you know that you're wearing something that feels different than what you've worn before.
Right, for sure. And so our audience at VentureBeat is a lot of entrepreneurs, and I still have Dreamforce on my mind because I was there not too long ago. And one of the things, you know, Mark Benioff is all about the 1-1-1 pledge. You've got the 1-for-1 model here. For entrepreneurs who see people like you, people like Salesforce, people like Tom's and other players out in the market doing socially conscious work with their business and want to do that, how would you recommend that they get started?
I think having that intention is, first of all, very noble, and we support all businesses who are trying to do that. I mean, the idea for me is make sure that it's authentic to the core of what you're doing, and make sure that if you're talking about it, you have a reason to be talking about it, and if you're doing it, it is really locked into the center of what you do as a business. That makes things a lot easier because you can't pull it out of what you're doing. And then I would also say talk to companies who have been down this road before. We did that. You know, Tom's and Blake have been really kind to us over the years, and I think some companies have gone through trouble with this model and have had some issues with it, and the ones that are willing to share that are really continuing to help the community, and the more that we can help other companies that are trying to do that, we're all for it. So we have conversations all the time with entrepreneurs who say, I want to start a purpose-driven business. I have I'm a social entrepreneur. Like I want to start, and we're always willing to have the conversations. And you know, you have to make it a business. You have to remember that it's a business, and it has to work on that level. And the thing that you're promoting or the product you're promoting has to be worthwhile. And if you feel really great about your product and you can use that to help solve a problem, then you know it's full steam ahead.
For sure. And so, you know, you alluded to some of the difficulties with the business, and you know, I have yet to meet a single entrepreneur who has said to me, you know what, came up with this idea, and from that moment on, it's just been completely smooth sailing,
yeah.
Right? Business is hard.
Sure.
What have been some of the biggest things that you've learned from the tough times that you've been through?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always tough times. The problems change over the years, but there's always something that you're trying to solve. For me, the most important part is having great partners and great people and a great team. And if everybody's aligned around core values and what we're doing and why we exist as a business, then it makes it a lot easier to solve problems, especially the challenging ones. So that's really important. You also have some naivete when you start out. You don't know how hard it's going to be. You don't know what the challenges are going to be. You're focused on we're focused on writing a script for our Indiegogo video, and it took 3 months, and now we can do that in an afternoon or whatever it is. But the challenges change, and things that look tough now, you know, it's going to get a lot harder. But if you do things the right way, it should be okay. You know, just have the right partners there, and you guys will make good decisions. That's what I always say.
Mm-hmm. And so, how do you pick the right partners? Finding a co-founder or co-founders is always really tough. So,
sure.
So what are your tips there?
Oh man, that one is a little bit tougher to give advice because it's so personal. You have to understand what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and hopefully your partner shares your worldview and then maybe can cover off some of the things that you're not great at, right? So my partner, he's great sales, business development guy. I come from a branding and creative background. We're both entrepreneurial and share an outlook on the world. So it works really well, and we make great decisions, I think, you know, hopefully. And same with the rest of our team. It's not just about the co-founder, right? Everybody else hopefully in your founding team, and as you grow, you know, like every person counts, right? These are all people who are contributing to the business. So it's that is tough, but I think, you know, a lot of people I talk to have had issues with employees or people that they've hired that didn't work out. They say when it didn't work out, they usually say, you know, I just had a feeling this was going to happen, and it usually does. So trust your gut, you know, ask good questions, and usually you know.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, stay tuned. We've got another great interview coming up right after this. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Blair Hanley Frank from VentureBeat. I am coming to you live from QuickBooks Connect in San Jose, California. I'm joined by Jen from Away.
Hi.
Welcome. How's it going?
Great, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming by. We really appreciate it. So tell me about Away. What is it that you do?
Away is a travel brand, and we basically exist to make travel more seamless and more enjoyable, and we started by making one single product, which is luggage.
Huh. And so there's a lot of luggage out there.
Mm-hmm.
What makes your luggage different from all other luggage?
Well, there is a lot of luggage out there, but what I noticed before we started Away, and the reason we came up with the idea for it, is that there wasn't a luggage brand that existed that people felt really proud to identify with, and there wasn't a brand or a product that really resonated with the way people travel today. So it was kind of a crowded, boring industry with a lot of options, none of which were really that exciting. So we set out to create that option that was really perfect for the way people think about travel and experience travel today.
I mean, I don't know. I, for one, think it's really interesting to choose between hundreds of black roller bags. I feel like that's, that's something.
To each his own.
Right, exactly. It seems like a really dynamic market where you have, something where you can't tell the difference between any of them.
So that was a big problem, right?
Right.
You would spend a ton of time in a department store or in a luggage store, even online, and you're wondering why one bag costs $500 and one bag costs $50 when they look exactly the same. And just the buying experience was terrible. And then when we dug into it a little bit, we realized this is one of those industries where there's rampant markups across the whole industry. You'd have the luggage salesman whispering in your ear that he can give you half off. So those are all the things we wanted to solve for.
Gotcha. And so with that all in your head, how did you actually go about making a name for this company in the travel industry?
So I think the way the industry was both kind of the easiest and the hardest thing about it. So it was difficult in the sense that there were a lot of options, good or not. But it was also easy because there just hadn't been any kind of creative new storytelling in the space. So even the little that we did in the beginning, really stood out to people as something they hadn't seen before. If you think about luggage shopping before Away, you'll notice that a lot of brands, would talk about the zippers and the wheels and the nylon and all of these like features and materials, all of which are really important things and things that we talk about too. But no one wanted to talk about what great luggage could actually enable you to do. No one wanted to talk about travel, which is bananas, because if you've ever sat next to anyone who's gone on any trip, that's all they ever want to talk about. So we really wanted to bring the human element of experience into the luggage industry.
Gotcha. And so how did you actually go about doing that with that vision in mind?
Well, it's easy to kind of look back and say that was the vision, and we set out to create this like brand that's all about storytelling. But to be honest, we didn't know any other way to do it. Steph and I my co-founder Steph and I love to travel, but there's just nothing more boring I can think of than just talking about luggage as a singular product. I didn't know how to start this company without talking about travel and getting people excited about the experiences. So even from the start, when we launched pre-orders, it wasn't a Kickstarter page, or it wasn't a page where you could look at the product specs and order it to be delivered months later. The very first thing we did as a brand was write a travel book with 40 people who were looked up to in their respective fields, whether it was food or fashion or art, and got them to tell us their travel stories. And launching like that as a brand let people know that, hey, this is what we stand for, these are the people we stand with, and these are the experiences that we really care about, and having our luggage can help you do that.
Gotcha. And so as you're moving forward as a company, how are you thinking about staying innovative and staying on top of the market? Because it seems like we're starting to see more and more players, at least from a feature standpoint, embrace some of the stuff that Away was bringing to market.
Yeah, I think it's very tempting sometimes to be like, hey, we're the disruptor in the industry. look what we've done, we're starting to take market share away from the bigger players. But really who we're worried about is any day a new company, like the new OA, could spring up. So something that we really try to do to stay ahead of that is make sure that we're listening to our customers. We are beyond customer obsessed. We've had dozens and dozens of tiny iterations to our product, our website, our marketing, and basically anything we do as a company based on what customers have told us. So, we didn't go in, experience like immediate success and think, okay, we're done here. Every single day we're evolving the company based on what customers want, and we think that'll help us continue to grow.
Gotcha. And so what other advice would you give to entrepreneurs and companies that are just starting out?
There's so much advice. One, I think, is ask for advice. And I think the worst thing that can happen is a no.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit embarrassing to think of all the people I reached out to and all the questions I used to ask, back when we were starting this, and I continue to do that. But I think knowing what you don't know and knowing that you don't know the answer to something is great, because then you can figure out who does know the answer and ask them for it. So I think that's really been instrumental in helping us get to where we are.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, and at the risk of sounding slightly Rumsfeldian, what were some of the unknown unknowns that you wish you had known about sooner? Stuff that you didn't know when you were starting the company that you wish had popped up.
I think so much of it has to do with people, both inside and outside of the company. So, in the beginning, you think you know who your customer is and what they want. And then it turns out after interviewing hundreds or even thousands of them, you're way off. Mm-hmm. But I think we at least knew a little bit enough to know that we could be wrong. And when you have something like hardware or a physical product, the bar for your MVP is a lot higher. You can't launch something one day and totally iterate on it. You don't just set out like a software update. So knowing that we needed to get that feedback early on was really important to us. And then when it comes to people inside the company, just the bigger the company gets, we're close to 100 people now.
Wow.
Over the last 2 years, and just the more people we add, the more we know that we as co-founders aren't the ones shaping the culture. It's our employees that are. So being open to that and having them embrace their roles as leaders in the organization has been really important.
And so as you're scaling your employee base, how do you do that from somebody who's, going from being a founder with a small team to actually going and really building out a much larger organization?
Well, I think one thing that's important that we acknowledge early on is that, kind of textbook cultures is that you're supposed to have these core values and you write them out and you maybe post them somewhere in the office. But Steph and I knew that, we could write all the core values we wanted, but if we didn't include the people in the process who are supposed to live those core values, there'd be no point. So we actually waited till the team was 40 to 50 people. We were all on a team trip in Nicaragua, and we split up into groups and really thought about, what defines the company at this stage? What are the really important things that guide you in your day-to-day work? And that's what defined the thing that defined our core values as a company are those people and that exercise. It wasn't, Steph and I sitting in a room by ourselves saying, hey, this is our company culture and these are our values. So really just including everyone in that process really is just shaping everything that we're doing.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been fascinating. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
All right, folks, we'll be right back with another great interview just after the break. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Blair Hanley Frank from VentureBeat. I'm coming to you live from QuickBooks Connect in San Jose, California. And I'm joined by Jennifer.
Yeah.
How's it going? How's your show?
Oh, it's just been wonderful today. It's so nice to be here. Yes, yes.
Well, thank you for coming and joining us. We really appreciate it.
Of course, of course.
So one of the things that I'd be interested to talk with you about is the use of apps to help companies grow their small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that, like, what does that end up translating to in terms of what people are doing?
Exactly. So really what we find, applications are really great to help people grow their business with solving certain pain points. Usually clients are coming to us, or businesses in general are experiencing some sort of disconnect between their operations and their accounting systems. So we're looking for the apps to help solve that pain point and help them focus on their business as opposed to the accounting.
Gotcha. And so what are the sorts of things that these applications are going to end up covering?
Oh, it's super interesting. Basically, any pain point you can identify, there's typically an application that will solve that. So for us as accounting professionals, we're looking at the typical workflow issues, whether it be the financial side of it, of payables or receivables or payroll, but we're also looking at other applications to help them as well. What are other applications with social media and things like that that we can build in and help them holistically with the health of their organization?
Gotcha. And so that's something of a transformation from the typical accountant business in the past. How has it been kind of transitioning a business towards actually, building a business on the backs of advising small businesses on more than just bookkeeping?
Well, the way we look at it and the way that I believe our industry is moving is that we're taking that holistic approach, right? We're identifying that there's more than just financial pain points. And financial pain points are typically a result of some other type of pain point, whether it's attracting customers, whether it's being able to run more efficiently, whether it's with standard operating procedures or whatnot. So yes, we're finding that we're being put in a different type of role. Some people may call it an advisory role, but really the way I look at it is now we're able to leverage applications to have stronger relationships with our clients, and with that, we're able to stop doing busy work and focus on the real stuff that matters.
Gotcha. And so, coming from a VentureBeat background, we write about technology all day. And from an app developer's standpoint, how can they be most successful at serving the sorts of clients that you're advising?
Oh, that is a great question, and this is typically what we get asked as well. There's several pain points out there, but the best advice I could give any application developer is to listen. Simply listen and collect data, not only from the accounting's perspective, but also from the client's perspective as well, and really stay tuned with that relationship. I think it's really important because sometimes we can see that applications are developed without a workflow that has a particular problem with it.
Yeah, I mean that to me feels like the thing that you want to tackle first is you want to figure out the problem.
You want to figure out the problem, right? Not try and find the solution first and identify a problem with it. So listening to the client is really important. Listening to the accounting professional and then really fine-tuning that workflow is super, super important.
What do you see as the sorts of special considerations that come into play when building applications for a small and medium business audience versus, say, either a consumer audience or a larger enterprise audience? What should people be thinking about?
I think people should be, first of all, looking for functionality. That's the main thing. There's many applications that have similarities, but basically looking for that functionality, trying to find out exactly what their pain point is and does this application solve that functionality. The next important thing beyond that is support. Support is super important, and not just the 9-to-5 support. Does this application have support worldwide? What are their call centers like? What is their helpline like? What is the in-app application support system like? And what is their video footprint on social media to also help people? Because typically, when you have a pain point, you're going to solve it outside of the work hours.
Gotcha. That's really interesting to me because I tend to work a lot with enterprise software companies, and that sort of outside work hours support, that's the sort of thing that they're going to be offering as a ultra premium, you pay out the nose for this kind of support piece. And on that consumer side, you might have a call center, it might be open during business hours, but ultimately it's kind of catch as catch can, and it sounds like for a small and medium business software vendor, they've got to be able to split that difference.
Exactly. You have to be able to build that relationship with the client. If you're not able to do it with a human connection, you need to have something else there to help them. Take a restaurant industry, for instance. They're very busy. You know, after hours is where they're going to be looking for that support. They're not going to be looking for it in product, in the now.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, here, let me stop dinner service to figure out this issue with my accounting software.
That is not an option.
So, from your standpoint as an accountant, what are you looking for most when you're trying to find a high quality application? What stands out to you?
I'm really, again, coming back to that connection of relationship. I'm looking for an application that is truly interested in the pain points I have and being willing to develop and change those pain points as well. So with that becomes the support structure, the willingness to innovate, the willingness to be able to switch gears, because we're dealing in constant change, which is a great thing, but also could be a double-edged sword.
And for accountants, how can apps benefit them when they're working with clients? What's that relationship like?
Oh, definitely. Think of the triangle effect. Being able to help the accountant, but also being able to speak directly to their client as well. Typically, we like to have that relationship, I'll be honest with you, but sometimes our bandwidth and our workflows are very high, and we want to be able to say, don't worry, that app has your back, be able to call them and get the support they need. We want to work together collaboratively.
Gotcha. And for accountants who are hearing about all of this, you know, they're here at QuickBooks Connect or they're watching online, and they're hearing, hey, you need to focus on adding applications, you know, it's now easier to do that in QuickBooks Online. How can they then go about familiarizing themselves with the ecosystem? What are some good tools for that?
I always preach, take your time, take it one step at a time. And the very first thing I would focus on is what is the most painful workflow that you are experiencing as an accounting professional with your clients. Perhaps it's data management. That seems to be the first step. Eliminating paper, going paperless. It's obviously very common. Well, then focus on that. Focus on the applications that solve that pain point, and again, take it one client at a time. Then once you build out your workflows, look for those other pain points and build into those segments. But definitely taking your time, assessing the pain, doing your due diligence with the apps, and then bring it out to your workflow is great.
Gotcha. And so one of the things that's been a through line of my conversations here has been the issue of AI and automation in the accounting profession. Seems like there's a lot of anxiety around that, a lot of expectation that this is going to, you know, at least to some degree, upend the status quo a bit. Do you think that applications are, you know, and automation are going to come in and just replace human accountants?
I'll be blunt, absolutely not. These are tools. Automation is tools. Artificial intelligence is tools. These are tools that help do the redundant tasks, if you will. There's still that human connection, that human relationship that needs to take place. And now we have the ability to do that more by leveraging these tools. So I am a firm believer that artificial intelligence will not, if you will, make us redundant.
That's fair. And so if that's the case, how can, at the same time that people are learning about the technology piece, how can they go and get better at that client services piece and that human connection piece, if that's something they need to focus on?
It's really interesting because it's a shift, right? If we look at traditional firms, it's a big shift. Look at it as a journey. And I think it's with any journey that you take, you need to chart your course. So figure out what you want to focus on first, but tie it in tandem with the client relationships. Take it right from the very beginning. Take it right from the onboarding of the client experience and focus on that as well. And I think that that will help. Just take baby steps, chart your course. It's a journey that's going to take place.
Cool. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
All right, folks. We are going to take another short break and we will be back very soon. Thanks so much for watching. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Blair Hanley Frank from VentureBeat, and we're here at QuickBooks Connect in San Jose, California. I'm joined by Mariette. How's your show been?
Hi, it's been amazing. So many small business owners getting empowered, so many accounting and tax professionals meeting new clients. It's awesome. We're really excited.
So what's your background?
So I have an accounting and tax practice. I've been in accounting and taxes for over 20 years. Had my practice for 9 years. And 2 years ago, I started focusing on the self-employed solopreneur.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that I'm super curious about is how have you seen the accounting business evolve over your career?
Yeah, it's been amazing. When I started, well, back almost 20 years ago when I decided to be an accountant, it was, I guess at that time, old school, desktop products, paper pens, general journals on paper. Let's fast forward maybe 10, 12 years later when I decided to open my own practice after working in public and private. My husband works globally, so I was able to open a virtual tax practice. So my entire business is virtual. So obviously that was the first evolution of where accounting technology is going virtual. Fast forward another 5, 7 years later, and now we have heavy automation. So it's just ever changing, and for me it's really exciting. I think it should be exciting for all of us.
How have you been able to follow all of that change? These seem like really transformational shifts in the business. How have you done it?
Yeah, absolutely transformational. I think how I've done it, and most of the people that are in my closer community, is coming to events like this first, following the thought leaders, following the Joe Woodards, the Brad Smiths of the world that are really encouraging us to be in front of the automation and technology, to take advantage of it and leverage it and not be scared of it. So just following the thought leaders and just thinking bigger, thinking that we can actually bring more value versus the old school way of just doing bookkeeping and data entry.
When it comes to automation, what are people most unprepared for?
That's a great question. I think what they're most unprepared for is when their clients are going to figure out how important it is for their advisor to be automated. And so what's happening is that we have these thought leaders that are really encouraging and stressing the importance of us embracing the cloud and using automations and using technology to leverage our business. But the small business owners are a little bit behind. What's going to happen though very soon is the small business owner is going to come up to those advisors and say, why am I telling you to do this? You should have done this 5, 10 years ago. So I think that's where it's going to really catch up.
Gotcha. And one of the things that I heard about earlier today is that there's been a slower embrace of mobile in the accounting field as well. Where do we stand right now in terms of where accountants are on mobile, as well as where are clients?
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Because the rest of the world is all mobile. So it's almost like a reverse engineering of these people saying, where are you going when that's where the rest of the world is going? So what's going on though there is that a lot of the apps that we have used, so a lot of the accounting technology and the tax technology, it's been desktop for so many years. So we really haven't encouraged our clients to use mobile accessible tools, and so they really are not feeling it. However, now most of the tools we use, like QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Self-Employed, they are all mobile-based. They actually sometimes were built first on the mobile side versus the desktop side or the cloud side. And so now the clients actually come up with the mobile app and say, how do you use it? And what they should be afraid of is if the client comes up with the mobile app before the actually advisor has it.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you have a virtual practice.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Basically what that means is I can work anytime, anywhere, from anywhere in the world. And so all of the tools that I use are completely cloud-based. So a perfect example, now that we're at QuickBooks Connect, is that Intuit has a dashboard called QuickBooks Online Accountant. It's for accountants to actually access all their clients. But the only way they can access all their accounting clients is if those clients are on a cloud-based tool as well. So I use QuickBooks Online for my larger small businesses, QuickBooks Self-Employed for my smaller businesses, and I even have my tax practice online through a product called Connect Tax Online. So every single product that I use is a web-based product.
For those people who are more used to the desktop way of doing things, how can they go about making that jump to the cloud?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think they need to, again, become believers, because for any of us that want to be more intentional of where our business is going, we need to believe in what we're doing, because it is going to take some time. It is transitional and transformative, like you said. So they need to become believers, and I believe the best way to become a believer is to following people that you believe have made it successful already. So come into QuickBooks Connect, go to other conferences, and start following thought leaders that you feel are really successful on the cloud, and just see what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So one of the, let's say I'm a cloud skeptic.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why I should stop using the same tools that I've been using for so many years.
Right.
What are some of the key features for accountants that make it worth the switch, in addition to that sort of geographic availability that you mentioned?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. So today I was on a panel with 5 other kind of app professionals on the power of apps. And we were talking about the working smarter, not harder philosophy, right? Being able to actually get on any computer, whether it's PC or Mac or mobile, being able to launch that Chrome browser and be able to work within, 20 seconds, as long as it takes to turn on your computer. Now let's go desktop. Booting up the program, maybe having to do a restore. Oh my gosh, I lost the data. Did I do a backup? I mean, just think about that. Just the fact of turning on your computer and being able to work in 15 seconds versus 15 minutes. And for accounting, time is our money, so that 15 minutes really counts. So that's where I start when I start trying to convince someone to get on the cloud.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense, especially because I have had a number of just backup nightmare horror stories, so I know exactly what that's like. The other problem is I've also had to deal with cloud services losing my stuff, which is its own special special bundle of joy. So one of the things that I end up covering a whole lot is AI and machine learning.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see that work impacting the accounting business, both from the client side and from the accountant side?
So from the accountant side, I think it's, as I mentioned before, incredibly exciting. So there's been this shift. It's the gig economy shift, it's the side hustle shift, it's more of this trusted advisory shift where AI and automation, or the bots, whatever you want to call them, right? They're supposed to be something that's going to make you work more efficiently, create systems, create processes, essentially systemize your firm so that way you can scale. And so that should be something you should be excited about and you should embrace and learn about, right? So from an account's perspective, it's very exciting. Of course, from a client's perspective, I think it could be a little bit scary because they're saying, well, who's really doing the work, right? And I get that. And so this, again, it all comes down to communication. Just telling your client, hey, those automations are actually making me work easier. And guess what I'm going to be able to do with you this year? Instead of doing billing or bookkeeping, I'm going to be able to do cash flow forecasting. I'm going to be able to project your income and be able to scale your business and grow with your business. Imagine how that conversation is going to feel with a business owner.
For sure. For accountants that maybe are looking to do a little bit more virtual work, whether that's connect with their clients via video conference or anything like that, what's your advice for them on taking the first steps into making their business more digital and more global?
Yeah, I mean, it's so simple now. There's so many tools. There's Skype, there's Zoom. There's so many tools for them to just turn it on and engage with the client and say, instead of me driving an hour to you, we're going to be able to work first thing in the morning. And we're going to be able to get things done and then leave you more time to do whatever you need to do and I need to do. So the whole idea of creating a remote environment or a virtual experience for your client is really exciting. But something I always tell my colleagues and my friends is still keep that human connection. So when you turn on the Skype or when you turn on the Zoom, turn on the face. Like actually put your face on, right? And turn on the camera because you still want that human connection.
Right, because of course that's what's going to differentiate you from the machine learning system that's doing all the automation.
Yeah. Right. You're not a machine, you're a person, right? So at least look face ready. Nobody's looking down here, right? Yeah.
Well, cool. Thank you so much for the time. This has been fascinating.
Of course. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, folks. We'll be right back with another great interview right after the break. Hey everybody, welcome back to our final interview of the day. I am Blair Hanley-Frank with VentureBeat. As always, I am coming to you live from QuickBooks Connect in San Jose, California. I am joined by Alex from Intuit. How's it going, man?
It's going very well, Blair. Really enjoying it here. Thank you for asking.
So what's your role at Intuit?
I lead the developer segment. So developers, third-party developers are my customers. And so I lead the team that has the platform, the APIs, the SDKs, that provides all the enablement of third-party app development and integration into our platform, and then the app stores as well. So the apps.com and exposing those third-party apps onto our platform. So I lead that team.
Gotcha. And so what is it that makes QuickBooks attractive as a platform to developers? Why should developers develop for it?
So there are a couple of reasons, big reasons. One is the growth of the customer base is accelerating and it's large. So it's around 2.38 million QBO customers globally around the world, and that growth is accelerating. It's around kind of 56% growth year on year, and even globally it's accelerating even faster, over 70% year on year. So there's a huge opportunity for third-party developers to integrate with our platform, fill out the gaps and extend the functionality of our platform, and then to be able to reach those customers through our platform and through the opportunities that we create to be able to connect QBO customers that are looking for those apps that are solving their problems to help them succeed to be able to run their business. So they can think of a third-party app developer. If they're solving a business problem for a small business or for an accountant, we really should be the go-to platform of choice for them.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. What sort of capabilities are you providing to developers that are new this year, new this time around?
So we're doing a lot on the API side of things. So be able to provide further functionality and exposing our internal services and functionality of our platform out to developers. We're also doing a lot to be able to really simplify the development and integration experience for developers. You know, the idea that you need to have a PhD in accounting in order to be able to integrate with our platform is something that we're doing a lot of work to be able to abstract that complexity away and allow the developer to become a lot more productive around that. So those are the kinds of examples on the technical side that we're doing to be able to ease the integration, improve the productivity, but ultimately in service of the small business customer to be able to provide really beautiful, seamless integrations between QuickBooks Online and those third-party apps.
Okay. What makes a successful QuickBooks Online integration? What makes a successful app that app developers should be working towards?
Yeah, so we've got so today we've got about 500 apps on our App Store, and those apps integrate with QuickBooks Online, not just from a data in, data out perspective, but also we're providing single sign-on experience for the end customers and for the accountants to be able to provision those apps on behalf of those customers. So when we think about what is a quality app and what is a successful app, ultimately it's about having a solution for a small business problem. If you think about jobs that need to be done, right, there are a very large and growing array of all these different jobs that need to get done in order for a small business to run their business, grow their business, manage their employees, keep track of expenses and vendors and suppliers and the entire business. And QBO provides a lot of that base level functionality to be able to grow and to grow your business and run your business. But it's about those third-party apps that are then extending the functionality in a really beautiful and seamless way that works with QuickBooks. And so we spend a lot of time in terms of tracking the quality of the apps, the app reviews that are coming through. We encourage our developers to really read those reviews and respond. We give them exposure to a lot of the things that we're learning about our customers and the needs that they have to be able to, for them to be able to solve via our platform. But as much as we can, it's really about enabling high quality apps on our platform and having a team that is coaching those third-party apps about what a great experience looks like, including the first-time use experience, how the data's synchronizing, transparency about what's working, what's not for the end customer.
Cool. So, as you're looking towards the future, what sorts of trends are you thinking about as far as things that will be interesting going into 2018 and beyond? Are there any emerging patterns among developers that are on the platform?
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing and experiencing is that obviously mobile is a big piece of this, right? So a lot of the third-party app developers are providing web experiences as well as mobile experiences, and being able to get those across device experiences to work, regardless of where you are. The other thing that we're really seeing from third-party developers is more and more AI-driven, ML-driven type capabilities, using voice-assisted capabilities ourselves. We've been announcing with QB Assist, conversational UI, and there's a lot of excitement about what we're doing around that. From a trends perspective, I think what we're looking at is a couple of things. We're learning that over 40% of small businesses globally are feeling kind of overwhelmed about the number of apps that are available to them and the choices of apps that are available for them to be able to choose to be able to run their business. And we're not just like on apps.com, the 500 that we've got there, but if you think on our iOS and on Android, I mean, there's a lot of apps to choose from. The other trend that we're kind of hearing is that small businesses are actually kind of willing to pay for being educated about which are the right apps, being trained on those apps. I mean, small businesses are just there to run their business and to follow their passion, and they don't want to become app experts. They don't have the time to do that. They want something that's just going to work and it's simple. And so that's actually presenting a huge opportunity for us as we're seeing the trend of accountants, where accountants, because of AI, ML, and automation, are feeling a kind of increased sense of pressure to up their game in terms of the value that they're providing to small businesses. Like, so much of what they do today around bookkeeping and data entry, you know, less and less of that is going to be done by humans. And so the question becomes, well, what are the accountants going to do? And there's a huge opportunity, and we're seeing many accountants going this way, is to become real trusted advisors for those small businesses. So if you think about what opportunity that creates then for those accountants to act as the trusted advisor for the small business, they can do two things. They can do, they can help that small business client understand what is the right app for that business, because they know that business well and they know the apps that are working well. And then two is actually onboard them and make sure that they're onboarded on those apps in a good and a safe way. And so that financial data and the business data is just finding its way back into QuickBooks Online, so that the accountant is able to make sure that they're doing a good job, but allows then the customer to be able to do theirs and then follow their passion, instead of having to tinker around with data integration and all the rest of it. So that's presenting a huge opportunity, and we're kind of responding to that opportunity by enabling accountants to become a really valued partner of our platform, and actually making those use cases available. So the accountant is now able to provision an app on behalf of the customer, connect the customer to that app, and it just works for the end customer. So that's pretty exciting too.
Interesting. We've only got about a minute left, but I know that there's some interesting news around funding platform companies that you've got up your sleeves. So what's going on?
So we announced earlier this week a partnership with Lighter Capital. The Lighter Capital Intuit Developer Fund is a fund of $15 million that we're making exclusively available for third-party developers that integrate with QuickBooks Online. And what's neat about this program is that Lighter Capital are not expecting a dilution of equity as part of it. It's effectively they're providing the capital, and in return they get a share of the revenue going forward. So it's all designed about enabling SaaS apps with subscription-based models to be able to grow their business even faster. They can use that capital to get more salespeople, improve features faster, improve their customer care experience. Whatever that SaaS provider, that app partner of ours feels is the most appropriate to be able to grow their business. So we're very excited about that announcement, and third-party developers on our ecosystem can go off and apply and have those conversations with Lighter Capital today.
All right. Well, cool. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right, everybody. That does it for us for this show. Thank you so much for tuning in from wherever you are. It's been really great to have you. On behalf of the entire production team, the VentureBeat team, and the folks here at QuickBooks Connect, thanks for watching.